Hey, I'm Teezio, and I have a few records nominated at the Grammys this year: Chris Brown's album Breezy and First Class by Jack Harlow. Working with Chris, the way he records is AutoTune is always printed on his vocal on the way in. It's not actually on the actual tracks. The microphone goes to the preamp goes to the compressor goes to the input of the interface, and that input of the interface goes to an auxiliary first in Pro Tools. That auxiliary has AutoTune on it. The output of that auxiliary goes to a record track. So by the time the audio leaves the auxiliary, the AutoTune is printed on the vocal directly. The way we figure out what speed it wants to be is I start him at 10, and if he tells me he wants more or less, I'll give him more or less. The AutoTune with Chris is not necessarily to improve his singing because he has the capability to sing perfectly in pitch. Most records have AutoTune, even if it's very little. And part of that is because there's this electric flair that it gives the vocal that doesn't happen when the vocal's just raw and natural. So because of that, Chris has always wanted it on his vocals since he started using it, and I think that it works out in his benefit because there's a lot of cool songs where you remember that one auto-tune bend where it does something weird, and part of that capturing it where I tell you I want to record the auto-tune down into the record track is that can never be messed with. No one could ever change the retune speed, no one could ever change human eyes to alter how that vocal sounds going through the auto-tune. So once it's on recorded, it's done. So I think what made these records special, starting with the Jack Harlow one, was the First Class record used a sample that was very, very popular. That record was so impactful, and sort of re-bringing that sample back, I think really helped the record cross over into the pop world. So that's the Jack Harlow one. For Chris Brown, what made it very special, and I'm gonna tell you why it made it special for me. I started working for Chris in 2016. I did an album called Heartbreak on a Full Moon. I did an album called Indigo, and we just did this album called Breezy. Heartbreak and Indigo were not nominated as R&B albums of the year, and Breezy is my final album as a recording engineer with Chris Brown, and so for it to get nominated for R&B album of the year is absolutely incredible. It's a wonderful end to my recording saga. I'm fully retired now. I'm just mixing. I think winning and getting nominated for a Grammy can really change someone's career. I feel like with Lil Nas X's Industry Baby, that was sort of the catapulting record that got me into working with Jack Harlow and working with other artists. So definitely I feel like the Grammys are a huge boost. Even if you lose and you just get nominated, it's a huge boost for your career. The first time I was nominated, I think it was definitely a feeling I've never had before. It felt like I haven't by no means won, come in first place or anything, but it felt like I had just won the race of a lifetime, given that since the age of 16, I was hoping maybe one day, maybe I could go one day, maybe I could get a nomination one day, and to get it and to actually be there after growing up watching it so many times on TV, I feel like that was just a feeling I've never had before. It was like nothing bothered me. First person I called when I was nominated was definitely my mom. And then my friend Baines. So me and Baines are very close. He's Thug's engineer, and me and him talk every day. So it's like when nominations are coming or whatever, if I'll call him, yo, you got #1 record today, or yo, you got nominated for the Grammy. So I'll call Baines, I called my mom, I called my dad, I called all the people that essentially have been around me for a very long time. But for me, winning that Grammy would be literally like, I just won a fucking Grammy for R&B album of the year. So I'm hoping.